Hello everyone, my name is Timothy Lee Grant, and today we are going to continue our journey of this project where we are trying to understand Java. So, don't really know much about Java, don't know anything about Spring Boot, so trying to just jump right in and understand as much as I can. So, I see that this is kind of where we are actually starting our project, but there's a few questions that I have. In the last video, I was going over like, okay, well, what is this line up here doing? And the answer to that is it's a namespace. So this is kind of um, telling Java that this code here lives within this world, this this little world right here. Okay, so I can have a class called demo application, and then in another world, a separate world, like I don't know, maybe this world right here. See, this is a different world. I can have another application or another class which has the exact same name, demo application. So that's kind of what I was going over in the last video. In this video, I have a whole bunch of questions. So if I click here, right, demo application, actually no, Spring application. There we go. You see it highlights this entire line right here. So I'm trying to figure out what exactly this line is and how I can use it by just doing that, the last part of it. So that's one of the questions I have. So importing the Spring Framework boot Spring application, that's that entire line. First question is, why is it .org instead of .com? Like my other ones were com example demo, right? So have here com example demo. Um, and, oh, okay. The company or the building right next to us, oh, yep, it's 4 o'clock. Every single 4 o'clock, they spew venom they have a pipe that goes directly into our apartment, and it's like this gas, like diesel or something like that, and you close the doors. Doesn't matter because it still comes in. All right, that's wonderful. I mean, the pipe comes right into our apartment. Or like points right to us. Anyways, I'll see how long I can handle or stand this. I might just dip out early. um, okay, so yeah, I want to figure out. Whoops, I want to figure out why that's the case. Then the other thing is asking about, okay, well, Spring application, this is only using Spring application, not the full path. Like, why is it used like that, and how do I import it? All right. All right. So, and why do you see .org in the project? So, yeah, I see com example demo, but I don't see org. That was my other question. In Java packages, names typically follow reverse domain name notation to avoid naming conflicts. So, com Oracle, com Google, org Spring Boot, okay? Or me, com my name. Okay, org Spring Boot or org Spring Framework Boot Spring application means it's part of Spring Framework project created by an organization that uses the name Spring Boot. Why don't you see org in the folder? That's because org Spring Framework Boot Spring application is not part of your code. It's part of a dependency. Okay, that's back here, right? Org Spring Framework boot. Okay, let me now go back up to here. org Spring Framework boot, and then I get that specific one. Oh, I see. Okay. Okay, that makes sense. Okay. Why only the last part is used? So when you write that entire thing, you're telling Java, I want to use the class Spring Application, which lives in this location, okay? Then in your code, you can just write, yeah, like, okay, so I just use the last one because the import tells Java where to find it, okay? Think of import like adding a contact to your phone. You save Alice Johnson with her full name. Later, you can just type Alice to call her. You don't need to dial the full name. Okay, fine. So, wildcard imports. You can also import all classes from a package. Okay, just like Python. Okay, that makes sense to me. Well, I think I am going to continue this video later because if I stay here too long, like I'll start to get a headache. I hate that building, like frightening. I don't know why. How is that even legal? How, I don't know. So I'm from a town with like less than 1,000 people. Like that's my kind of world. And all of a sudden, I moved to Seattle. I'm here in a big city. This is like my first time living in a city in the United States, and it's like everything is completely new. Again, I'm used to like rural Oregon. No cities, no. The town that I live in doesn't even have a stoplight. It doesn't have a high school. I had to go outside to a different city. And the city that I went to had 10,000 people in it. So it was like from almost non existent to something that actually, it's not huge at all. But that's kind of the world that I was living in. Now all of a sudden, bam, I am here in Seattle. I'm like, oh, okay, that's weird. And like, drug addicts screaming at 2 a.m. in the morning about who knows what, and you're just like, you wake up, what? And then, let's see, what else? Oh, there's a garbage truck that comes at like 4 a.m. in the morning, 4 or 5 a.m., and just like, sounds like explosions. I mean, this is insane. Okay. I did a little bit of time, like 3 months and then 3 more months, so 6 months in total. I lived in St. Petersburg while Susie was studying there. So I've lived a little bit in a city, but it was in Russia, obviously. So yeah. Anyways, I'm gonna head out because I'll probably just go for a walk then. But because this thing keeps spewing venom and it's gonna give me a headache. I can already feel like not great. Oh, right, I am back, took a walk, and, well, okay, relaxed a little bit. That's more than a walk's time. But anyways, I am back. Now, I was watching a tutorial in the time. I started watching a little bit of a tutorial on Spring, and I came across this question here. So I saw a whole bunch of different other things than Spring Boot. I was seeing stuff like Spring Cloud, Spring Shell, Spring Batch, Spring Boot, Spring Framework, Spring Security, etc. Like there was so many random stuff, and I was like, okay, so there's more. What are these? How do I use them? Can I use multiple of them in the same project? So like what is this? And what's its relation? I'm learning Spring Boot, which is this one. Well, okay, there's more stuff going on. So we're gonna figure that out, and then we'll try to remember what we were doing with the other ones. No coffee, right? A little bit. Just like one sip of coffee. Okay. So you're absolutely right. What you're seeing is the Spring ecosystem. Here we go. It's one of the most powerful modular frameworks in the Java world. Let's break it down so you can understand what each part does. how they relate, and what you can do to use them together. Okay. What is Spring? At its core, Spring is a framework for building Java applications. It started as a lightweight alternative to Java Enterprise Edition, and over time it grew into a massive ecosystem of tools and libraries. Okay, so we have a whole bunch of these things. So Spring Framework, the core foundation of whatever this is, IOC. I think DI stands for Dependency Injection. AOP, okay. So typical use case, all Spring applications use this one, Spring Framework. Spring Boot, auto configures Spring applications, makes setup easy, rapid deployment. So this is what I'm using. I think what I'm starting to think is Spring Boot is just kind of like a way to set default or like a way to choose which dependencies you want, what applications you want to use, or something like this, and then just using those. I don't know. Spring Security handles authentication and authorization. So like logins, Java Web Token, I think it is. Spring Data simplifies database access. Hey, we can use MongoDB here too. So the web one does that. Spring Batch handles large-scale batch processing. Cloud is for microservices. Shell, interactive command line apps. Okay, so can I use multiple ones together? So absolutely, in fact, that's the norm. Spring is designed to be modular, so you only include what you need. For example, so we have this one, right? But we didn't do any of those two. But if I wanted to add some kind of security to my web application, I might look into Spring Boot Starter and then security instead of Spring Boot Starter Web. Okay. Spring Kafka. So I've heard of Kafka. That's something that we'll need to look into eventually, not now at all. All right, how to use them. So pick the modules that I need, right, and add them. Okay, so I just add them to that POM file, this one. I just add that as a dependency, and then there I go. Okay. Spring Boot auto configures them, and then I write the logic for the controllers. Okay. All right. So coming back to here in my main, I'm trying to figure out how so I call this location, and in my POM file it has the location, like org Spring Framework boot, which is the exact same thing that I did here, org Spring Framework boot, and then I'm grabbing this like item, okay, and then I can just call it by just doing the last thing in that item, okay, and then so how does it package it? Like I'm doing import. Is this an object right here? And then there's a method within that object called run. Okay. And then I'm passing in myself class and arguments. Okay, so I don't understand what's happening there. Okay. So in this, I am calling the run method on the Spring application class and passing in myself as the first argument, but I am also putting a dot class to myself, okay, then passing the args passed into the main function. Okay, how can I pass in myself recursively, and what is that dot class? All right. So here, yep, let's break it down step by step so you fully understand what's happening here, especially the part where about yourself and what class really means. So what is demo application class? In Java, every class has a special built-in object called class literal. Okay, so this is universal to all Java. So when I come here in Java and just do public class and then create my own class, okay, it is going to have default built-in like arguments. What is this? Object called class literal. Okay. So demo application class means the class object that represents this demo application class. Okay. This is not an instance of the application, it's a class object. Okay, so I'm not trying to pass in an instance, I'm trying to pass in the actual blueprint, the actual class. Okay. Part of Java's reflection system that contains metadata about the class, its name, methods, annotations, etc. So what is this doing? Spring application run, and then passing in the class. Uses the class object to locate the Spring Boot application annotation. Okay. Determines the base package for the component scanning. Use it as the primary source for configuration. Use it as the primary. Okay. Uses arguments array to pass any command line argument to the app. So you're not passing in yourself recursively, you're passing in a reference to your class definition. Okay. Analogy. Oh, hopefully the last time it gave me an analogy, it was like spot on and just like really good. Okay, let's look at this analogy. Think of demo application.class like a blueprint. You're not passing the house, an instance, you're passing the blueprint, the class metadata. Spring Boot uses the blueprint to figure out how to build and wire everything. Okay, yeah, that's what I was kind of saying about it's passing in the actual class, the blueprint, not the actual object, the instantiated object itself. Okay. So, what is a class object? In Java, every class has a corresponding class object at runtime. You can get it in 3 ways. So class question mark C1 equals demo application.class. Compile time. We the same what type? The same type. Class question mark. Demo application dot get class. So I code to the demo application. And then there's a method called getClass. There's a getter, class for name here. So I go to this namespace, maybe. Okay. So now I guess the next question that I'm going to be asking is to try to figure out, when I run my project, I know that it's going to come in here, and I think it just automatically searches for source, then it searches for main, searches for Java, but how does it know? Does it search all of my functions and just tries to find anything in this like Java folder that matches the word main? When I run my NV Maven W, I know it auto looks for a file structure of, and I need to look here, source main Java, source main Java. Now, my question is, how does it find the main function? My question is, how does it find the main function? Does it search through all of the functions declared in all of my files? And find anyone that is named main? Okay. Who actually finds the main method? It's not Maven that finds my main method. It's the Java virtual machine that does this when you run your application. So Maven, via the Spring Boot plugin, simply tells the JVM, run the specific class that contains the main method. So the real question becomes, how does Maven know which class to tell the JVM to run? Okay, sure. How Maven and Spring Boot find the entry point. So when I do this command, you are using the Spring Boot Maven plugin, which looks for a class annotated with Spring Boot application. Here, okay. That application marks the primary configuration class and must contain a public static void main method. So Spring Boot doesn't search through every file for a main. Instead, it looks for a class that's annotated with that, okay? And then within that, it looks for a valid main. Once it finds it, that's the entry point. Okay, cool. So this is telling Spring Boot, hey, this is my entry point. Then Spring Boot looks, okay, here's my class that I'm going to be looking for. There better be a main in there. Here's a main. Okay, cool. I'm going to do this. All right, so where does source main Java come in? That's just Maven standard dictionary or directory layout. There we go. It expects source main, okay, resources in resources, tests there. Okay. So Spring Boot looks for this. All right. Now, I guess my next question is, from my perspective, I'm just running one line of code. But I see that I have this controller, and I did a function. Let me try doing another one, like get mapping, okay, and then another, okay, and then public public string, another one. Just creating a function right now. Return, you got another one. Okay. So now I'm going to try to run this. Do I need to save things? I think I do. File, save all. File. Okay, whatever. Hopefully. Does that mean unsaved changes though? I don't know. Anyways, let's run it. Okay, here we go. Now I'm going to try to access that. Come here to another. You got another. Okay, so I am able to add things in here and I'm able to get stuff back. So from my perspective, I'm only running one line of code. But obviously, things are going on under the hood such that it's not that way. They're calling the other ones as well. Okay, so how does that work? From my perspective, I am just calling, or just running, one line of code. This one. But I have another class in my controller folder, and I know that it is also being run. Because I sent a web request to an endpoint in that location. Because I sent a web request to an endpoint in that class and got a response. Okay. So you're only writing one line of code, yeah. But behind the scenes, Spring Boot is doing a ton of work for you. Let's unpack what's really happening and why your controller just works, exactly, even though you never explicitly called it. So what happens when you call Spring application run? This single line kicks off a chain reaction. Spring Boot starts the application context. Think of this as Spring Container. It manages all my beans, so the components, services, controllers, etc. It scans my code base starting from the package of demo application class. Starting here, okay. So component scanning begins. Because Spring Boot application, which is here, oh yeah, we need to get going for, okay, this video has had 3 interruptions. So we're actually, it's the 4th of July today, so we're going to go to I forget what it was called, like Union Lake. It's north in Seattle, and we're gonna go watch the fireworks. So we are about to be going. So goodbye. I will see you guys in a few moments. All right, see you. Okay, third time is a charm, right? So let's continue with what we were doing, and I'm gonna just come right back to here because I kind of forgot. It was a great fireworks show, though. It was we. If you're living in Seattle, don't go to Union Lake, the South Park. You should go to the North one. It's like Gasworks Park. Okay, we went to the South one, and it was way too far away. But go to the North one. Go to Gasworks Park. Much better viewing area. You can see it much closer. So next year we're going there. Anyways, let's get back to, let me turn the brightness up a little bit. Okay, let's get back to Copilot and figure out what we were even, let me read the question again. Okay, so yeah, I'm running just this one line of code, and I want to know, like, okay, well, how does it actually interact with the other files that I do, right? Like, what's going on there? Okay, so Spring Boot starts the application context. Think of this as the Spring container. It manages all your beans. Okay, there's that beans again. We met the beans in episode 1 of this Java series. Okay, it scans your code base. Code base starting from the packages of the demo application class. Okay, so because Spring Boot application, so this annotation here. Because of that, Spring automatically scans. What does it scan? It scans number 1, the package, com example demo. Com example demo, okay? And all sub packages like com example demo controller. So it's scanning for this like controller here, okay? So it scans everything in that location. So I'm guessing it's just because it found this demo application, like this is the entry point. Okay, so it's looking for these annotations like component, service, repository, REST controller. This is my controller. I don't think it is actually. Oh, yes it is. Okay. So hold on, there's multiple annotations going on here. There's this top one up here, which is REST controller. Then there's down here, which is get mapping. Well, we're going to be asking about that. Okay, so Spring instantiates my controller. Spring creates an instance of my controller class here, right? Hello controller. It registers it as a bean in the application context. It maps the HTTP endpoint you define, get mapping, okay? It maps the HTTP, like, what does that mean? It maps the HTTP, okay, just, like, obviously I know what it means, but I'm trying to ask, like, is Spring in control? Like with Node.js, Express is the one who's kind of orchestrating it, and whenever I get a request, it routes it, and that's who's doing it. But this is doing the exact same thing that my Express and Node.js is doing. But is it Spring? Okay. And so how does this annotation tell whoever that this is a mapping? Like, who is doing that? Is it Tomcat, maybe? Okay. So, that's a question. Number 1. Here. In Node.js, the thing that keeps track and performs the routing and mapping is Express. Who is doing this same thing in my Java software? Who am I telling to map when I use that annotation? Okay. So it might be Spring, it might be the Java virtual machine, it might be this Tomcat character here. Okay, so we don't know yet. Spring starts an embedded Tomcat server. Okay, it listens, so Tomcat is listening. I believe in Node.js, Express is listening. Okay, it routes it, meaning Tomcat, routes incoming HTTP requests to the appropriate controller methods. Okay, so why does my controller work? Because Spring Boot found my controller class during component scanning, registered it as a bean, mapped its endpoints, wired everything together automatically. And that's triggered by this. So I just pressed the start and the system ran. Okay. So I'm going to run this, and then my next thing that I'm going to try to do is figure out how do I create a more impressive, right, and this is something that's kind of cool about being able to do multiple different projects, is now that I did the Node.js one, I kind of understand how that one works. And now going into this Java project, there we go. Going into this Java project, I'm able to kind of be able to have more of a direction of, I kind of know where I'm going. And so one of the things that I want to ask is, okay, well, in Express, we have something called EJS files, which is HTML. And I just render that to the user. Well, how do I do this in whatever, Tomcat, okay, in this Java framework? So I kind of like that I'm doing both of these at the same time, and I can kind of play off of each other. So it's nice. Okay. You're making brilliant connections between frameworks across languages. You're absolutely right. In Node.js, something like this, we have the const express equals require express. Okay, so we get express, right? And then we instantiate an object from express. Okay. App.get, so application has a method called get, and I'm putting hello there, and then I put a callback function. Okay. It's handled by Express, which is a lightweight framework that maps routes to handlers. Another question that I actually have is, what are the advantages of using Java and this method over Express? Like, what's the difference? Why would I use one over the other? Yeah. Okay. So, who handles routing in Spring Boot? In Spring Boot, the job of routing HTTP requests to your controller method is handled by Spring Web MVC. So, MVC. Does it say what that's supposed to be? No. What is M2? What is MVC? What does it stand for, and what is it? Okay. So specifically the key players: dispatch servlet, the central router like Express app figures out which controller method matches the request. Okay. Handler adapter evokes the matched method controller your class with REST controller and get mapping. Okay. So what happens when you do this? Just is what we have. We have REST controller and we have, so I'm talking to the REST controller, right? And then I'm saying to do this get mapping. I think that's what's happening. You're telling Spring, register this method as a handler for GET requests. First off, GET, okay, to hello, all right? Spring does this during component scanning, okay. So behind the scenes, Spring sees REST controller up here, and then registers the class as a bean, okay? I know that we already investigated what a bean is, but I just want to go back over it and remember like what is a bean in this context. I know that I already asked that. I know that I already kind of investigated that, but I forgot. And second time, it gets back in your head and then you forget less. So I'm just going to ask it again. Okay, so it stores the mapping here. When a request comes in, the dispatcher servlet matches the URL and the HTTP method, finds my method, calls it. Okay, cool. So web framework, we have this Express and Spring Web MVC. That's one of my questions. What is that? Router.get and then get mapping. So that's how we map them together. So callback function and controller method. So in Node.js, you use the callback function. In Java, you use the controller method, which is here, right? Okay, server app.listen, but in Java, it just automatically does it. Entry point is this index, and okay, so we know that. Let's come here and look. Okay. What are the advantages of using Java and Spring Boot over Express? Both Java/Spring Boot and Node.js are powerful, but they shine in different areas. Here's a comparison. So Java is strongly typed, and I think that means like you have to do int, string, etc. But wait, isn't JavaScript the same way? Because I need to do like, oh no, I just do like const or whatever. Const or var. Okay. Java is statically typed, which helps catch errors at compile time. Sure. Okay, so Spring is widely used in large-scale, mission-critical systems like banks and airlines. So enterprise grade. Okay, so if I'm doing like a personal project or something little, Node.js and Express make more sense, I guess. But if I'm doing enterprise level software, which is exactly where I'm trying to go, right? Then Spring Boot makes more sense. Okay, cool. Performance. Java's JVM is highly optimized for long-running, high-throughput applications. Okay, threading. I don't like that word. Okay, Java has mature multi-threading and concurrency support. Okay, I'm gonna skip that one. Yeah. Tooling, excellent IDEs. Okay, whatever. Mature ecosystem. It's been around for a while. Okay. When Express is better, simplicity. So it's lightweight and easy to get started. JavaScript. So same language as front end and back end. So I can use the yeah, that makes sense. It's written in the same language. Rapid prototyping is really quick, and I can get some good, just do it really fast. Non-blocking I/O. So Node.js is great for I/O heavy apps like chat or streaming services. Okay, so I/O heavy. From my like, whenever I hear I/O, I'm thinking input-output pins on a microcontroller. It's not what it's meaning here. So I think it just means data is flowing really fast, like in streaming a video or chat or something like that. Like there's a lot of data being pumped through it. Okay. What is MVC? Model View Controller. Okay. It's a design pattern used to separate concerns in an application. So model represents the data and business logic, okay? Java classes, entities, services. Okay, sure. View is what the user sees, which is exactly what I was about to ask, right? Like I just said that I wanted to figure out, okay, well, what is EJS? What is the EJS equivalent? It sounds like it's views. Okay. Actually, they're called views in Node.js as well, so it's nice. Okay, in Spring, HTML, Thymeleaf templates, or JSON in REST APIs. Okay, here we go. So, handler, it's also, yeah, JSON. And I'm curious because in Node.js, JSON was turned into a JavaScript object. Now we're not in JavaScript, we're in Java. So do we turn it into a Java object? So controller, handlers use input and routes. Okay. So why use MVC? Keeps code organized and modular. So we're just making sure that we put the parts that do similar logic together. So we have our logic section, we have our HTML section, and we have our routes section. Okay, then that makes sense. In Spring Boot, even if you're building a REST API, no UI, you're still using the controller and module parts. Okay, well, our next question actually was going to be this. It was going to be, I was just thinking about what the equivalent to expresses EJS files would be. It sounds like it is the V in MVC. How would you suggest I expand my project to contain all three of these aspects? I want a model, I want a view, I want a controller. I want all of this, right? All three, my project to contain, to have all three of these things. I want to practice and understand. Okay. Cool. So, what is a bean in Spring? So this is our third question. So a bean is any object managed by the Spring container. Okay, well, yeah, because Spring is kind of keeping track of everything. And so when I have these annotations, like whatever, a REST controller, Spring kind of says like, okay, well, this is a control. Okay, see, now it kind of makes a little bit more sense now that I've had more context and I go back to the question. Because the first time when I typed that, like, what's a bean? I read it and I was trying to understand it, and I was like, well, okay, maybe I understand it. I understand it at like 5%. And then I go away, and obviously I can't remember it 2 weeks later. But now that I have more context, because I've been just playing around with the language and the project, I'm able to be like, okay, well, it makes more sense. Like, I'm not just completely lost. Okay, so Spring creates an instance of the class. Yep, it stores it in the application's context, so Spring kind of knows about what's going on and is orchestrating everything. It injects it wherever it's needed. Okay, so if I need whichever, okay, that's the dependency injections. I kind of remember what was going on there. That one was like, if I have something, like I can just call something that I need and it will be there for me. Okay, so here, service, we have public class greeting service, okay, with a method of greet, okay. So Spring sees service, creates a greeting service bean. So it creates a greeting service bean and injects it into any class that needs it, okay. Why beans matter? They allow Spring to manage the life cycle of my objects. They enable powerful features like dependency injection, AOP, and configuration. Okay. So a Spring managed object that can be injected. Okay, cool. So I guess the second one is, can you give me examples of dependency injections? Okay. So I'm actually not going to press enter right now because I am going to head to bed, and then I will continue this project tomorrow. So tomorrow we are going to try to learn how to get those EJS files, how to get the different controller and that was the logic one, right? What is that? Model. Okay, model. Okay, and that's the logic. Okay, and then V is views, so that's the EJS, and then C is routes controller. Okay, so trying to get all three of those kind of situated in my project, and then we'll be moving forward. I also need to get back to the JavaScript project. I'm trying to connect those things, what was it, the people and the companies and in the MongoDB database. I was trying to connect them and I was just having difficulty, and I was like, I want something new. So I started the Java project because I was like, I need something new. I need to take a little bit of a break from that one. Plus, I kept hearing over and over and over and over how important Java is and how I need to understand it and how I need to get good at it and how I'm like, okay, we'll do it. So doing both at the same time. Anyways, I will see you guys tomorrow with more videos. So that'll be fun. I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of the day. If you like these videos, subscribe, and I will see you then.